Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Twelfth Man Show. And today we'll be taking a deep dive into FC Goa's management structure as well as their qualification for next season's AFC Champions League. And to top things off, FC Goa managed to bag Juan Ferrando, who's supposed to be an amazing Spanish coach. So we're looking forward to how FC Goa does next season in the ISL and on the continental level. And yeah, just really pumped. So hope you enjoy this episode and let us know what you think in the comments below. Any and every feedback is appreciated. Have a good time. Today's episode is really interesting. We're talking about FC Goa, who've become the first Indian club to ever qualify for the AFC Champions League group stages, not the playoffs. We're also talking about their recent recruitment of the young coach, Juan Ferrando, who reminds me a lot of AVB, Andre Boas, who Chelsea hired back in 2012. So this is a really interesting episode. So yeah, let's kick it off. What do you guys think about FC Goa's performance last season and them qualifying for the AFC Champions League?
So, in my opinion, the way they have been managed since the last 2 or 3 years under Sergio Lopera, that's the key for them getting this success now to qualify for the FC Champions League. First of all, they have a very balanced Indian core where you see Brandon Fernandez, you see Amanda Rao Desai, who've been at the club since the last 6 or 3 years. You have Manveer Singh, who's been there for 3 years. So that is a very balanced squad. In terms of ISL, if you see the other ISL clubs, they don't have that balance. They keep on transferring Indian players from one team to the other, and they've not still found a good balance in the squad. With that Indian core, they also have a foreign core of Koro, uh, Ahmed Jahu, and Hugo Gomez, Edu Bedia, who've been there for 3 years. If you see, ISL clubs don't take foreign players for more than 1 or 2 years. They, if you see, I think only Bengaluru and FC Goa have that sort of system where they keep their foreign players, or else everybody is switching their foreign players every year. They still follow the marquee players system.
So one of the biggest things that surprised me was FC Goa managed to get Zico as their head coach in the first season. They had Robert Pires as one of their marquee signings, and they also got the Brazilian Lucio as one of their other marquee signings. So I was surprised that they didn't make it past the first season. What do you guys think about that?
I think they didn't do well in the first season under Zico.
But they did do well in the second half of first season. They managed finishing second. They qualified for the playoffs, went till the semifinals. So I think that's an amazing achievement for a club that's making its debut season in a completely new league.
Yeah, and plus we had players like Romeo Fernandez who came under Zico and got a trials in some club in Brazil, if I'm not sure.
Yeah. He was sent out on loan to Brazil, and he also got national recognition. I don't know how much he's played for India, but I think that guidance of Zico really helped him, take the step up and get into the Indian national team. But anyway, we can focus on the past later when we talk about the management and the growth of FC Goa. Last season was particularly brilliant for the club. They played 18 games, won 12 of them, 3 draws, 3 losses, and I think they had a record high of 46 goals scored.
To add to that, so it was a very comprehensive season where you see champions are built when they win crucial matches or score crucial goals. Three of their matches they were losing in the 90th minute and they scored after the 90th minute to equalize, which is three crucial points, which keeps them away from ATK, who were in the contention to qualify for the FC Champions League. So that is some kind of a mentality that Sergio Lopera ingested into the players.
I think even the fact that Bengaluru FC slipped up, I think 2 or 3 times that season. They were winning games, and then the teams they were playing against came back and either drew or defeated them. I think the second last game Bengaluru played, they were, I think, winning 1-0 and lost 2-1 or something. I'm not sure. So they finished what with 30 points, Bengaluru FC. So yeah, they could have been in the contention as well. That's just what I think. But I was surprised that Goa still went on to win their last 3 games after
losing to ATK.
their manager. Yeah,
Yeah,
after the manager got sacked.
yeah. I think even in the I think around the 13th game week they lost to ATK, which was the fight for the FC Champions League. They lost to ATK, then they lost their manager. So there was like a wave going on with FC Goa, and everybody was thinking that they might bottle the lead that they have over ATK. But then I think in the last 3 matches they scored. I think they won 4-1 against Mumbai City. Then I think Hyderabad. Then 5-2 against Mumbai City, and then 5-0 against Jamshedpur. So that was some way of getting the AFC Champions League spot.
Do you guys know why the manager got sacked or left by mutual consent midway? Not even midway, towards the end of the season.
I think there were a lot of speculations. I think, as much as I know, there were a lot of sagas going on. I think the manager wanted a player to come in, but the management did not want the player, and there were some bitter issues between the manager and the management of the club, and that is why I think finally they let him go. But it was a very weird way of letting him go between of the season when there was a fight for AFC Champions League spot.
Not even between. Last 3 crucial games, ATK's on your tail, 4 points behind you. Big mistake. But Goa also earned the nickname Tiki Taka, Vamos, whatever, Goans, Gors. I'm not sure, but Tiki Taka. Sorry.
The Gors, like that's what they've been called now.
Yeah. So, moving ahead to the AFC Champions League. What Janusz, Uditya, can you guys explain what the ACL is and how much of a big deal it is for India to be playing in such a big competition?
So if we see, you can compare the AFC Champions League to the UEFA Champions League. It's the same. It's just different continents. And qualifying for something like that is really big for India. And it is just, we've qualified. Our MA points are still not that good, but we've qualified because they just recently increased the number of teams from 32 to 40. So we get that one confirmed spot into the group stages. So that's really good. But we'll have to look out for what good clubs they can bring in from Qatar, Saudi, Iran. Those will be the clubs that we'll be playing against, and those are some deadly opponents.
I think it's weird that ISL's league winner gets to go to the ACL group stage, but not the ISL trophy winner who goes to the.
I think that's something
goes to the AFC Cup.
I think that's something the AFC have said, that we will not have something like a knockout winner to go into the FC Champions League. They want a league winner to go into the FC Champions League, and that is why I feel the league winner is going to the AFC Champions League, and the whole tournament winner is going to the AFC Cup.
Do you guys agree with ISL having knockout rounds after a league season?
No, not at all.
Why not?
That was I don't know. That is something which they should be changing pretty soon.
I think they are working towards.
Yeah, they are working towards it, and that's something which is something we can talk about, because so the knockout stages are there because football has not grown that much in this country. So what those knockout stages bring to the country is that some kind of excitement. If just in case what happens, if something like a Liverpool Man City or something like that happens very rarely. usually what we can see, like this time also we had FC Goa versus ATK, but finally for the last 2-3 games it was sure that FC Goa is going up. Pretty sure, like with the form they were in. So if that happens and if some team becomes the top team, then all the uh, exposure around the tournament, all fans might click off, less viewership. So something that the ISL is looking for. What are your views?
I mean, I agree that Indian audiences used to having tournaments that have some sort of a conclusion,
Yeah, we
like
want a
a
dhamakedar
final.
climax.
Yeah, 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 yeah. A final to decide the overall winner. But my whole point is a league is also a final of sorts. Like you have 38 games. You I'm talking about the Premier League in this case, or any other European league. You
Yeah.
have 38 games. You're competing against 20 other teams, and you're playing each one of them. So, in a way, all games lead up to that final moment, which decides what the table's going to look like. And that's a season long battle. So, why would you settle for one game when you can have the an excitement for the entire season? That's the way I think about it.
A movie can be 2 hours long and it can be exciting throughout, but without a dhamakedar climax in India, the movie might not work. That is something that the ISL is looking into. That is what I feel. But obviously, for football, for the quality of football, for footballing fans who are hardcore football fans, it would be essential that we have a league and the league winner becomes the trophy winner as well. And there is not something like a league champion and uh, like the ATK as the trophy
No,
winners.
because then the ISL trophy, in a way, is bigger than the league shield that the league winner gets.
Yeah, in terms of prize money, it is, but in terms of if you see who goes to the Champions League, it is.
No, no, I agree. Who goes to the Champions League is because AFC doesn't accept knockout stage winners. So yeah, just my 2 cents on the whole situation. I also think that ISL should become a season-long league starting from August or September, go on until May, preferably 18 to 20 teams, so
I
that
think they are
more.
working towards it,
Yeah,
but they
I think
are.
it's in their 5 year. I think it's an AIFF's 5 year plan
Yeah,
where they introduce
more
I think
teams
two or three new teams
every
every
year.
year, two
Yeah,
or three new franchises. Yeah.
so that is something like they are feeding the audience and checking if their audience is taking it in, if they are adding 2 more teams, and if they are like lengthening the whole tournament. Do we get viewership throughout the season, or it falters down at the end of the season? I think that is something the IFF and the uh, Reliance Foundation or the FSDL is looking into.
So anyway, coming back to FC Goa, let's actually take a step back and talk about their management, how they started. 2014, ISL's about to start. Goa, if FC Goa is one of the first few franchisees who's gonna be a part of the debut campaign. Uh, what are your thoughts on that?
So when FC Goa became one thing, it was a very big thing because two of legendary clubs in India or Goa, Salgaonkar and Dempo
Salgaonkar
combined.
and Dempo, yeah.
Yeah, they combined to form a club, and that was something really big because until then we knew the rivalry they had in the Goan league itself. It not only in the National League but also in the Goan league that they play.
But that also shows that like football in Goa goes beyond club rivalries.
For sure, for sure.
It's so much bigger than just your team versus my team. I think people actually live the sport. But yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, actually, they actually live the game. The people of Goa.
Yeah.
And the number of players they produce for the national team as well throughout years and years. That's a great number as well. Also, so they they were not that successful in the first season, I think, but then I think because of
They
some.
so their first season. So Zico, as we discussed earlier, took charge for the first 3 seasons. 2014, 15, 15. No, 2 seasons.
Yeah,
He
I
left
think
in
two
the
to
third
three
season.
seasons. Yeah. Uh, 2 to 3 seasons, and then Lobera came in.
Yeah. So Zico comes in with two marquee signings of Robert Perez and Lucio. Uh, and I think that blending that in with the Goan football culture is probably one of the best things that you can create. Two of the biggest clubs from I League joining to form FC Goa. You get in a legendary coach, you get in two really big players. So I don't know, just the intensity in trainings, just the demand for performance that would have gone up so much.
For sure. I mean, the number of fans that stacked the stadium initially because of all these factors coming in was huge. And then, although the partnership with Depo and Salgado didn't work that well for FC Goa, but still the legacy of Goa and the football that they play has gone past Zico. It has come through Sergio Rivera, who's reinvented the team with his own signings.
He was actually more successful than Zico.
Yeah. So with all those signings, and obviously this season he's also won the Super Cup last season, and now not qualifying for the Champions League, but yeah, almost taking his team to the Champions League. So that is something. Plus, he the kind of signings he has made, the kind of team he's built with the foreign core that they have. I mean, Hugo almost stepped up this season big time with 11 goals and 10 assists. That is something huge because you already have Koro who's scoring goals every season.
He scored 14 goals, right?
Yeah,
last season, Koro.
Koro scored 14.
And
at the same time, Hugo scored 11. I think.
Yeah, 11 and created 10.
10.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he was the perfect playmaker.
That's some kind of partnership you want at the top of your attack. Plus, you have Brandon Fernandez who's giving assists for free. He's given, I think, 7 assists in the season.
And all the goals which have been scored so far, I saw a few things that Jackie Chan did. Like he is giving the perfect assist to Koro and even Hugo, and all the goals. Most of the goals are like he has been phenomenally giving the assists throughout. So.
And the other thing I really liked was, so I was going through FC Goa's profile on Wikipedia, and their first team squad has 14 Indian players, and the reserves are full of Indian players. And what surprised me even more is, and it surprised me because the only other club I knew who was focusing so much on grassroots is Minerva Punjab, and that's because you've mentioned it. Is that FC Goa is training? I think that number might not be accurate anymore, but they had 1,500 kids in their grassroots academy.
So they were
developing.
They established a really good academy with a good technical director on top of it. So, and that makes it. They've got AFC B license coaches, just like Bengaluru's system. FC Goa has also got a very good system to promote youth in the country, which is good. I think they are one of the few ISL teams who take this youth development very seriously, and that is something we should be proud of. Because after all, whatever ISL, I League, what we want as Indian football fans is the national team to qualify for the World Cup someday.
Definitely, and we also want ISL to go beyond the idea of just being franchisee clubs. We want them to become established institutions. We want them to have academies. We want these clubs to provide kids who are in school a path to becoming a professional footballer.
Yeah, and that's why the qualification for the Champions League becomes so key, because you see, if Champions League comes to your country, means you will have at least 3 Champions League matches in Goa next season, and that is going to be something really big for the fans of FC Goa as well.
At least 3 matches, and if they do as well as Bengaluru FC did in AFC Cup a couple of seasons ago, then that's even better. Yeah. So anyway, second season, strong start, top of the league, finished with 25 points. Their first first ever record of 29 goals, which they broke this season, 1920. But they lose the playoff final to Chennai in FC.
No,
So they've
semi-final.
lost semi-final.
Yeah.
So
So
they've lost quite a few of their important games to Chennai in FC.
they've lost one final. Now they've lost a semi-final. So that is something. And so even if you see the semi-finals of the last season, you see they lost the first match 4-1, but they did not give up. At the Fatoda, they came back and they lost 4-2. Oh, sorry, they won 4-2. They lost the whole tie, but still it was.
Yeah, they
it
lost
was,
on aggregate 6-5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one hell of a comeback. And even the Chennai supporters, the hardcore Chennai supporters, were thinking that, oh shit, FC Goa might just go on to win this.
And they could have. And the good thing about Goa's supporters is, I mean, it's a really fun fact to know. Goa's attendance from the first season of ISL, average attendance, has been 90%, over 90% by the fans. So the stadiums are almost always full. So that's something that I really, that really gets to you, because football, you can see football in the country is growing, and you can see that FC Goa is getting their entire strategy right from the first season. I mean, you can go back to the third season of ISL, their third season. Ownership shuffling, the Dempo owner and the Salgaonkar owner, they took a step back. The I forgot his name. Modi. His last name's Modi.
Yeah, I think Delta owners or the
Delta owners. Yeah. So they come in. Virat Kohli comes in. So ownership shuffling, Zico leaves. They finish last, unfortunately, in the league. But fourth season, the Lobera era begins, and they get to the playoff final, semi-final. My bad. Lose to Chennai, but the season after that, they win their first ever trophy, the Indian Super Cup final. So that's amazing growth. In 5 years, you consistently finish top two in the league. I'm not even considering the playoffs. One off season, you finish last, that's fine. You win the league in the season and become the first ever Indian club to get to the AFC Champions League.
And I think that's the style of football they play. It's really interesting, exciting football that they play, and that is something we are looking into as of now, because we don't want boring football in India. We want interesting and exciting football, and that is something they play, and that is something they are looking for also. I think with the next coach.
Do you think a team dominated by Indian players would be able to provide exciting football compared to a team dominated by foreign players and having a few Indian players in the team?
For sure, the foreign players add a lot of stuff to the teams. I mean, Spanish players, most of the foreign players that we have in India are from Spain, and that adds a lot of quality to the team. So it's a long shot to call that the Indian a team dominated with Indian players will, perform well or outclass the players which is dominated by foreign players. But what we can look for is the Indian players, the young Indian players, learning skills from the foreign players that come in. Like if you see Brandon Fernandes, he's learned so much under Hugo Gomos, Edu Bedia, and if you see what he's produced this season, not just for FC Goa but for Team India as well, he's given 7 assists in ISL. But during that season when we had matches for the World Cup qualifiers, I think last 2 or 3 assists that India have is given by Brandon Fernandes. So that is something that we are looking for, the foreign players coming in, sharing their experience and knowledge with our Indian talent, and then taking Indian football forward.
What India, I think, needs right now is a striker to not just back up Chetri, but eventually, take over from him. Because when Baichang Bhutia left, he had Sunil Chetri who was coming up. They had played together. But I don't see any other Indian player who's coming up and a lethal finisher.
So what I feel is we will never get a Chetri, that's for sure. But what we can look for is a team of 11 players that maybe can fulfill what his impact was as a captain, as a leader, as a player. So now that what I see from the players that are coming up from Sahel Abdul Samad, Anirudh Thapa, Brandon Fernandes, Manveer Singh, these players may not be as good as Chetri, but
They're
together
amazing
as
squad players. Yeah.
exactly together as in a squad, they might be able to do well and do better than what we have already seen with Sunil Chetri as the captain of the team.
I think that's what we ultimately need, a team that's not just so that's like I'm comparing Chetri to Messi here for a second. So the problem with Barca, as many people, many coaches, many players feel, is that even the best players they buy look for Messi on the pitch. They give the ball to Messi because that's, I don't know. It's just that they feel that there's some ceiling they've hit, that after beyond that ceiling, it's just Messi who can deliver the goals, the trophies, everything. So I think that kind of issue also has creeped into the Indian team, where they constantly look at Chetri as their go-to guy to get the goals, to get them get them out of tough situations. So we definitely need a team of definitely leaders, but players who perform in every area on the pitch. So definitely agree with that. Anyway, let's move on to the last topic of our conversation, and probably the biggest one, FC Goa's appointment of Juan Ferrando. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a good signing. It's an optimistic signing as of now. Like we can look forward to him as the manager, and he's going to be the first manager to lead an Indian side into the FC Champions League. So that is something he'll also feel the pressure of going towards the Champions League, because the kind of clubs that will be there in the Champions League. But I think his record has been really good as a manager.
Yeah, he's promoted the Greek Super League outfit, Volos NFC, from the third division to the second division, and then second division to the first division.
So that's something a positive way to look at it. But then the flip side of it is it was a new club when he joined it as a manager, so there was no pressure.
But then Goa's also a relatively new club.
It's a relatively new club, but then the legacy they're trying to build over here is something really more than being a new club. The kind of football they've been playing since the last 6 years is something they want to take forward. So there will be a lot of pressure on the manager, because I don't think FC Goa fans.
Yeah. The type of football they've been used to for the past 5 years, I don't think
Exactly.
they'll accept anything below those standards. But then again, you can expect that level of football from this guy, because if you look at his qualifications, he's coached at Espanyol's academy. He's coached Barcelona B. He's been an assistant coach in Malaga. So that's three of the biggest clubs in Spain. He's also been a technical coach to Fabregas, Van Persie, and a bunch of other players. So
Those are some big names.
yeah, so that shows you that Goa is trying to move forward. Like you mentioned before this interview, he's had a stint in the Europa League. Yeah, so I think he has enough experience to take Goa into their debut AFC Champions League season. Not necessarily do well, because there are of course seasoned competitors who play in the AFC Champions League every season. So yeah, I think we just have to give him this season to kind of get his ideology through to the players, and then you can actually start judging him from the next season. What do you guys think about that?
Something that he'll have to look after is what kind of players he's going to have this season, because with the AFC Champions League, there's going to be a 3+1 rule where there can be 3 foreigners plus 1 foreigner from the Asian continent, which is not there in the ISL. So in the ISL, you could play around 5 players in the starting 11, whereas in the FC Champions League, you can play 4 with 1 Asian
Yeah.
player. So now that comes into the mix, they'll have to make few changes to their foreign core that they've created since the last 2-3 years, where you have Koro at the top, Butada Fall at the back, and Hugo in the middle. You have Edubedia in the middle. So now, what next? Like, how can you make that 3? How can you confirm that these 3 foreigners out of this mix of 4, who've basically been the spine of the club and take forward the club with 3 foreigners out of these five or four, and then you sign one more Asian foreigner. So that is also something that him and the management will have to look into coming the next season. And
I think it'll be
I think
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
I think Ahmed Jau has already gone to Mumbai. Then Carlos Pena has already retired. So two of your foreigners have already left the club. So that gives you room to sign new foreigners. Also, I think Jackie Chan has gone to Jamshedpur. So that is something that is something they might miss. But they've also signed, I think, Redeem from Northeast United, who has had a wonderful season last year.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
that is something they can look into.
I think knowing this guy, he'll definitely be. I mean, he'll definitely be bringing in the coaching ethos of FC Barcelona and Espanyol. So he'll definitely be looking at or keeping an eye on at least the grassroots and the youth academy of FC Goa. He'll he'll try his best to. This is purely my assumption. He'll try his best to form a core made purely of Indian footballers so that he doesn't have to rely too much on foreign talent. So I think that's just my opinion. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I think in a way he'll also be he'll I think he can find himself in a lucky place in a way to have a good Indian core already set up, because you have Manveer Singh, which is a very good forward, not good as scorer, but he can step up with goals and assists. You've Brandon Fernandez, who always gives you assists. Then you have at the back, you have in the midfield, you have Lenny, who had his best ISL season last year. Maybe unlucky not to get an Indian call after a national team call up after that.
Oh yeah.
But
He was disappointed after that, I'm sure.
yeah, then you have a keeper in Mohammad Nawaz who has made his that spot his. The goalkeeper thing is sorted for them because he's come up the ranks of FC Goa and now performed really well. So he's got a good Indian core, but obviously he'll have to bring up more players from the
Youth academies.
development squads. Yes.
Yeah. But the reserve squad is also full of, I think, good talent. So let's see what FC Goa has to offer, in the upcoming campaign. So yeah, that's all on our agenda from today. We're done.